Welcome to the Pie Guy Podcast with your host, Matt Walker.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pie Guy Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Walker, and I have my very good friend, Carl Smith, who I have been friends with now probably a lot longer than I realized, probably like 10, 15 years, maybe.
I was thinking 20, but
maybe.
we'll go with 15.
Wow. I did one of my first and only conference speaking engagements, and Carl was there, and he was great. And there was a whole great group of people back then. And he and I were just talking, and I know he's led agencies, and he has all this experience in the design world that I wanted to get into. And then he and I just started talking, and we started realizing, I don't think I've ever spoke design with him in my life. All we do is talk football. So how you doing, Carl? If you could introduce yourself to everybody, and maybe we'll just kind of see where this goes,
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name's Carl Smith. I know that Pie Guy is a sports podcast as well.
It's a little bit everything, yes. So it's kind of whatever, yeah.
So I'll just say I went to the University of Florida, and I am still a Gator fan. And I'm also a Jaguars fan. So it's been a rough. Everybody, take it easy, would you? I mean, we got some things have happened.
Hey, I'm a Jet fan. I would give anything to have your Florida.
Jets fans are still talking about Gastineau, so yes. I can appreciate that. You're still wheeling out Broadway.
Yeah. How the hell? Like Ozzy's gone. How is Joe Namath here? Like 80s icons are going by, and how is Joe Namath still here?
Oh man, I was having this conversation. Actually, I had a therapy session right before this.
About Jaguar football or Florida football?
No, I would never do that to my psychologist. No, we were talking about the Hulk Hogan and Ozzy and Malcolm Jamal Warner, and I said, no offense to Malcolm, but is he really the third?
You know what? Well, I mean, if you are worried, Chuck Mangione. Did you see Mangione though?
Yeah, and
so you could go that way, but I'm gonna argue on behalf of Theo Huxtable.
Okay.
Huxtable, because I think we're a couple of years apart. For my childhood in the '80s, the Cosby Show really was like, what is that, like 8 is enough? That was like our family thing.
Yeah,
and seeing them lip syncing on the staircase, and then little Rudy and all that, like that was such a big part of it. That like that's one of those ones that hurt, and I'm shocked. And I never thought it would hurt so bad, but like when he went, like it was a real shot to, like I actually yelled out no, like it just. I think because he's 54 and the way he died, like it was just sad. And he
was young. I saw him on another show too. He was on some hospital show.
Oh, did he? He had other engagements.
He had a show, something my wife was watching.
Oh, well, good for him.
His voice kept getting deeper.
Yeah. Well, but think about it. He was a handsome guy, very lovable, but he kind of just fell off the map. But you know what's funny? You see these people, and it was kind of like the guy from Karate Kid, where you're like, oh, I wonder what ever happened to Johnny. I'm sure, he's probably working at like a tattoo parlor somewhere in the valley. And then you look it up and you're like, oh my God, these people have been working actors ever since like 20. Yeah. They have like 70 movies, and you're like, here I am feeling bad for them. And they probably have the greatest life.
They're okay. Yeah. So get back to Chuck Mangione. My wife told me about him passing. And I swear, when I was a trumpet player in junior high school.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to switch to flugelhorn because of Chuck Mangione and spending countless hours learning Feels So Good. Right?
That's a hard song, right? Is that
there's parts of it? I mean, parts of it. But the thing is, it's about tonal quality. It's about control. There were some rapid areas to it, but for the most part, it was a song about how beautiful can you make this sound.
That's nice.
And my embouchure and all that stuff was dog shit. Right. So it was like I was not a great. I was technically sound, but nobody wanted to hear what came out. They actually switched me to French horn, which worked great.
Oh, funny.
So at which point I'm just doing the beginning of Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want, or any French horn rock and roll solo I can find.
Now I'm trying to think. Like I know the song, and I'm trying
It's
to
like,
think of the horn part. How does it
it
go?
starts off, "Bon-on-on-on." That's about how I played too.
Oh, okay.
Um, so, but it's interesting because him and then Billy Joel ended up announcing that he had had some brain issues
Yeah.
going on, and I was like, not Billy. Nah, I can't do
You
that.
know,
I lost Petty.
it's
I lost Prince.
yeah. But Petty was a while ago, but he was great.
And then
Um,
Jimmy Buffett. It's
yeah.
like these were my people. You
Well,
know,
it's funny, what you look up,
Sly,
but you look at who?
Sly Stone
What about him?
from Sly passed away. I thought.
Sylvester Stallone?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Sly and the Family Stone.
oh, yeah, yeah. It's funny.
Everyday people.
Yes, what's funny is there's generations, right? When you think of people and you lump them into generations, and I think the hard part is when people start going and they're your generation,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, these aren't like some way in the distance generation that I don't understand. This is actually like people my age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how old
Or
are
even
you?
the younger ones. I just turned 50 in January.
All right, so I'm 57. I'll be 58 in September.
Okay.
Um, Black Sabbath was my first concert.
Oh, wow.
I was 12, going on 13. I was a
What a
few months
great,
from 13, and
what a great first concert. Holy
dropped me off.
Oh my God. Could you
I don't think
imagine?
they expected I was coming back. I think they were like, finally.
Could you imagine if you just like, I don't even know what the Black Sabbath equivalent of the music would be today. Could you imagine if you just rolled up and dropped your kid off at a concert hall at 12 and like, all right, see you back here in a few hours?
I wouldn't do that for Taylor Swift.
I know. Yeah, think about it. Yeah.
Black Sabbath. But what's funny was it was Ozzy's last tour with Black Sabbath before Dio took over. And so I remember being there, and the Coliseum wasn't packed.
Really?
But the people were terrifying. I mean, like, I remember sitting there as a kid, and I'm just like going, what have I done? What have I done? And then Ozzy came out, and the first thing he says is, where the F is everybody? And I'm sitting there feeling like I have to answer. And he's like, where the F is everybody? And then he's like, I don't care about those effers. I care about you effers. And then they just went straight into Planet Caravan. And I was just like, what is happening? But it was one of the first albums I ever had, cassette actually. My brother left for college. He's 10 years older than me. And so he left, I was around 7. And he had a Black Sabbath Paranoid cassette. And I played the mess out of that thing.
Yeah,
like how it didn't break, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that music was so instrumental. And it was interesting because when my sister left for college, suddenly I'm also listening to Black Oak, Arkansas. And I'm listening to Helen Reddy. I'm like, I was the most messed up kid when it came to music because, and I love Broadway musicals, right? So it's like, it's just a hot mess. But I think it was really Prince that knocked me for a loop. Prince was my third concert.
Really?
So it was Black Sabbath, then Pat Benatar on the Hell is for Children tour, and then Prince on the Dirty Mind tour. And I'll never forget, like, I mean, the first time I made out with a girl, she put on Prince.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like 15 or so.
That is so crazy.
And so it's like, he's not just, I mean, and there's the purple one right there. He's not just somebody that I went to see. He was somebody who was playing in the background of my sexual development. But I'll never forget because, like, I never stopped listening to Prince. And it's like Rainbow Children is my favorite album. And most people be like, what?
Well, during COVID, you remember everybody during COVID, you would just like, we were all just sitting around, right? Like the very beginning. No one had anything to do.
It was wonderful.
It was like we were in study hall and we're all just, or like a free period in high school. We're all just chilling out. So somebody just said, put out your most controversial opinion. And like, I didn't mean anything by it. And at first it was kind of like, just, it's true. It's something I think, and I don't mean to be whatever. And then it actually, like, someone picked up on it and they got mad. But I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to be controversial, but I said, look, I know that my most controversial opinion was, I think Prince is incredibly talented. I think he's amazing. I go, however, he doesn't have that stairway to heaven. He doesn't have, like, what are Prince's top 3 songs? Like Little Red Corvette or whatever. And maybe you can say that better as a Prince fan, but I said, when you put him on the list with other people, I said, I don't know that he's had the hits or the successes. I know, like, he is talented and he was amazing, but like someone points to, like, the Batman album as his top selling album. I'm like, yeah, but that was the Batman time where everything with that Batman thing. So I put that out there, and at first people were agreeing, and then people started going after me, and some Prince fan picked up on it. And I was getting, like, hate mail, and they're like, we're going to get you work. It was crazy.
What?
But the thing about my feeling with Prince is, like, I said, do you ever go somewhere and someone's like, and maybe you have, but I'm like, do you walk in at a party and then all of a sudden, like, a Prince song comes on? Like, it just, in my life, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, he's almost more like almost like not a scientist, but he's more of an experimental person to me
he's
than
true
he was.
performer. I mean, it's every aspect of it. So what I'll say is, people would say Purple Rain.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an artist that had the #1 album and #1 movie at the same time. And I don't think that's ever happened again.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton was, during his downtime, because figure Purple Rain came out in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
I know I was 17. I wasn't old enough to go see it. So my mom had to go get a ticket for me.
Really?
Yeah. I went on a date to give to Purple Rain.
Oh my!
They
you
wouldn't
and
let us in.
Prince
So
making the moves.
I had to go and pick up my mom to buy me and my girlfriend a ticket, and then she said she was going to watch it too. So I was like, no. It was the worst.
Mom, this is my makeout music. What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? Now, the second movie he did, Under the Cherry Moon, was the worst. I actually walked out of it. It was one of those, I like you so much, I can't watch you do this to yourself. The album was great. Under the Cherry Moon was the album from that. But what I'll say is it's different for every person. But with Eric Clapton, he went to see Purple Rain when he was at his lowest point. It was when he had, I forget George Harrison's wife, who Layla is based on. And he was there in Palm Beach at Ocean Boulevard and all that stuff. I've driven by that house before. It's got hedges so high, a helicopter couldn't see over.
Oh, my gosh.
But so he went and watched that movie, and he said that movie was what pulled him out of his funk and made him want to play guitar again, because he saw Prince playing guitar and how much he loved playing guitar. And when you think about Prince, it's like, he was such an instrumentalist. I didn't get to see the Sign of the Times tour. I saw him 9 times, but the Sign of the Times tour, he didn't do in America. Right. He finally released a movie of it, but he plays drums in that. Like, Sheila E. was the drummer, and they do it for him. The entire band comes out in a drum line playing snare drums and just tearing it up, like going back and forth. You would have thought it was FAMU, or you would have thought it was like some major college drum line. And then he got on a set drum later. And the thing I think for a Prince freak like me is, you never knew where he was going.
Yeah.
And he never did the same thing twice.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. Like, after Purple Rain, he released Around the World in a Day, which, like, had melodic flutes and harpsichords and all this kind of stuff, and really pissed off a lot of people. But it also had Raspberry Beret. So like, he had some pop songs that he was doing. But what's interesting is, if you look at, I think it depends on the era of Prince, because most people didn't follow him his whole career. If you look at like his early stuff, he wrote, produced, he did everything. So I'm not saying he had a Stairway to Heaven. I'm not saying he had something that you would see in that genre of rock. But I think that's because he kept moving.
Yeah.
I love Zeppelin. I mean, I don't think Stairway is even their best song, really.
Well, it's not, but so actually it's funny you're mentioning this because I was at my cousin's and my cousin's really funny. He's like this old school from Brooklyn forever, and like he loves going to bars, but he'll create almost like trivia questions or whatever. Or so he'll be like, all right, right now, what's the top 10, whatever. Well, he had this thing last week where him and his friend were doing, and he goes, I'm going to name a band, and you have to name their whatever song. Their like, what is their whatever, you know what I mean? What's the word I'm looking for? But like,
Yeah,
what is their
what's their
major
biggest
song?
hit?
Yeah. And his friend Brian, who's a great guy, but he kept naming all these weird off ones, and I go, no, that's emotional. Like we were talking about like Pearl Jam, and he would be like, oh no, Black, or he would mention these side songs or songs that people love, but I'm like, no, like it has to usually be a commercial success, like even we were talking about Freebird, and he said, oh no, their best song is whatever, like, or the one they're known for is this. I'm like, no. I said, you go to a concert now, someone yells Freebird, whether you like it or not.
I'm in Standard Central right here.
Yeah.
So it's Freebird.
It has to be, right? Like it has to be Stairway, it has to be Freebird, it has to be Hotel California. Like
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
So for Prince, people would say Purple Rain, and I
mean, I think they would.
Charts for a long time.
Yeah,
all that, but he got bored. Like the beginning of Rainbow Children, he actually is talking in this godlike voice, and he says, "If you came here looking for Purple Rain, you're not where you belong. Please leave now." Right?
It's funny. You know what you need? The world is better off when you have these people that can't be constrained and they can't be put in a box.
They're not categorized.
Yeah, they're not. And that's, I always love that. Like there's this line from Shawshank Redemption, and I said it in my sister's eulogy, but it's true. It's like some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. Yeah. And I think that the world needs people like that, because like I despise just formulaic nonsense.
And that's where we are.
Oh my God. Like I would argue, and I think hopefully we're getting out of it. I would argue that like 2014, something happened where I don't know if everyone colluded or whatever, but like they all decided like, we're going to MVP everything. We're going to put it the lowest common denominator. No one's making any more risks. Like movies, music, like everything. And it's all just formulaic nonsense. And I had this teacher. She was so funny. She was amazing. She was FIT in Manhattan, the Fashion Institute of Technology. Okay. Like I don't even think she was 4'11", Asian woman, blind in one eye, crew cut. And I was never more scared of any human being in my life. She had such an aura, and they would do this thing where you would have a major, and the teachers would grab your entire major, all your core classes, and call it Professor Ishikawa's class. Okay. So she did it, and you would have her sometimes 6 hours a day, and then you'd have her almost every day of the week, at least 3 hours, and it was rough. You would have 3 hours of homework where you had to draw a body part, or you had to like, it was just, and I remember like panicking when you'd go in the next day to draw, and she would walk around and she would critique everyone's artwork in front of you. Okay. And it was like the scariest thing where you're just drawing and you're like, so, and she would walk up, and I remember like, she'd walk up to someone's thing. This one girl, once she walked, she's like, it looks like a uterus. And this girl just screams crying and runs out the room. And now you're like, oh my God, the sweat's pouring down and you're so nervous. Yeah. So she would always say to me, Walker, what is this? And you'd explain it, and she'd be like, you just don't get it. And I was like, I guess I don't know what she's talking about. Yeah. You know? So finally I did my greatest thing ever, which there was this Annie Leibovitz thing in Rolling Stone, and I drew a whole thing on James Hetfield. It was by far the greatest thing I've ever. I don't even know where it is. It might be at my parents' house, no idea, but it was awesome. I was a bad student. I actually put my heart into the homework assignments. And I bring it in, and she's like, Walker, what is this? And I explain it. She's like, what did you do? I said, well, I drew this picture. And she's like, I get it, but what did you do? And I wasn't, and finally she looked at me and she goes, if I wanted a Xerox, I'd go to Kinko's. And I was like, but it changed my opinion on everything. She goes, I see that the photographer is very talented and whoever art directed this is very talented. What did you bring to this?
Oh my God, I hate her.
No, but you would have loved her because it like she was rough, but she was right.
Yeah.
And it's like that's when I look at movies and all the formulaic stuff. That's like even if somebody samples music, like did you just make the money off the sample or did you take the sample and turn it into something better?
Make it your own, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the cleverness. That's even in writing. Like one of the things I don't like country music because it's literally like someone just telling a story. Like I went here, I did this thing.
It's so formulaic, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not clever. It's just talking. Whereas like I think of a Pearl Jam or some other great songwriting thing where it's like they make you feel that moment.
Mm-hmm.
They could explain the moment and you can feel the texture, you can feel the angst, or you could feel the anger. Like that's creativity.
Yeah.
And that's what someone like Prince brings to the table, right? Where they're trying to capture that. And that's the lightning in the bottle, is feeling it.
Yeah.
And when you can smell it, when you can feel it, when you can taste it, that's when you know you got it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're all aiming for, but a lot of people don't realize that, they think, they'll put out a song. That's why hip hop, like I like 90s hip hop, but hip hop now, same thing. It's like, oh, they're just looking for a catchy beat and whatever. And you're like, no, you got to say something, or even angst. Like they don't allow anyone to have angst anymore. No one's mad at anyone.
Oh, dude, the record labels don't, but there's some indie artists out there.
Are there?
Like
I always wonder.
UK rappers right now. There are some UK rappers. Well, actually, he's more than a rapper, but Ren Gills. His nickname is Sick Boy. He got bitten by a tick when he was in his teens. Whoa. He had a record deal with Sony. And he was doing good music. Like the stuff he was doing was it was hip hop, jazz adjacent, kind of like all these kind of things. And he was creating everything himself. But he had a band called The Big Push as well. And they were both doing some stuff. And then he got bit by a tick. He ended up with Lyme disease and he was misdiagnosed. Oh, so wow. He had, just illness, psychosis. He had immune deficiencies, all this stuff. And Sony drops him.
Wow.
Just drop him immediately. So he goes through all of these battles, ends up, there's a stem cell doctor who just had a generous soul and heard his story. And he's bouncing from doctor to doctor to doctor. And he ends up helping him. Ren right now is in Mexico getting stem cell treatments. I'm a fan, right? We're called the Renegades. But he is a self-taught piano player, a self-taught guitarist. He is, I've seen him play bongos amazingly, which you think bongos are simple, but to really play them well, right? And all of his content is around violence and depression and the healthcare industry and all of this kind of stuff. And he's got a song called Suicide. What record label would let him put that song out?
Right. Yeah, seriously.
He ended up in a battle with YouTube, who was doing a copyright strike against his song Sick Boy because he had licensed the beat from BeatStars. And then the person who did the beat originally was upset because the song just skyrocketed, right? Ren recently had the #1 album in the UK.
Really?
Sick Boy, and beat out Rick Astley, who evidently is still popular in the UK.
Oh my God.
So, but anyway, it's like he has become my replacement artist in a way for so many of the greats that I just love. Like people think of Buffett and they think of Margaritaville.
Yeah.
They have no idea. Like his best album to me was Beach House on the Moon, right? And he's got all of these like amazing emotional songs as well as fun bops.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with the shit he was doing in the 80s.
Yeah.
He never stopped. But sometimes you can't overcome those massive hits
Yeah.
and the eye rolls that people don't
Yeah.
like. I'll never forget my daughter. She was probably 14, and we were having a pool party, and there was a Buffett song on, and one of her friends made a snide comment, and my daughter was like, "You have no idea how deep his catalog is," and I'm like, going, "I am Dad of the Year." Like, what just happened?
There are times where my kids will be like, "Oh, can I put my phone in and listen to my playlist?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And I assume it would probably be something I hate. And in reality, the music they start playing is like music from the like I've gotten really into listening to a lot the Violent Femmes the last year or two. And I love them. And I'm like, and the kids, like, they'll put on that, or there's another one, like, even the suicidal tendency, like some of these things that, like, when I was a kid, I couldn't claim it then, but I'm listening now, especially Violent Femmes. And I'm like, this is so fucking good. So
I
good.
saw them in concert 4 months ago.
They're coming up in October or up here. And I said, I might actually go.
You've
I never go. I might.
to go.
And I never go to music.
No, I went. They played a little amphitheater about 20 minutes south of me in St. Augustine, and my daughter and her girlfriend went, right? And so we're there and we're watching it. And what they did was brilliant. They played the second album in its entirety first. Then they played the first album in its entirety second.
Oh,
right?
funny.
And the first album is where all of the hits that you know are, right? The second album had some great stuff, but not at that same level.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, my daughter was like, "I want to get some merch, but I don't know when to go." And I was like, "Let's pull up the playlist." And I was like, "This is a turd." In the turd. But they were so much fun.
They were.
And I'll never forget when they brought out the xylophone, right? And everybody was like, "Why can't I get just one kiss?" Yeah. Like we all knew what was about to happen. And it was all people my age.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like all the Gen Xers are there just going crazy. Yeah. But I agree with you, man. It's like, and it's funny because I have a Violent Femme shirt from that show, and I'll wear it sometimes, and people come up and they just get excited.
I have, like, on the dating sites, you could put a song there, and I have Kiss Off. I have the song Kiss Off.
Nice.
And people will be like, I just want to say, they're like, regardless of what happens, that's a great music choice. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But I love that song. Like, my son works at this bar in town, and whenever I'm in there, I'll play Violent Femme songs, and people like it. Because how do you not like it? Like, even the guitar, like, I wonder, I'm like, did they put it out of tune on purpose, where it's like, dun, dun, like, there's just such rawness in it. And I always think back to that time, like, even if you think of something more commercial, like Axl Rose or whatever, like, but people sounded different. They gave you something different.
Yeah.
It's one of the things is, like, that Christina Aguilera singing voice, which every girl has now, and they sing every note the same. And then I listen back to, like, Ella Fitzgerald or Billie Holiday.
Bird.
Love it. And you listen and you're like,
the blues.
I like the imperfection of these voices. And it's like one of my favorite albums of all time, which isn't whatever, is Metallica's Kill 'Em All. And every music person's like, oh, that song, that's terrible. They don't have bass. And I'm like, I don't care. It's
Which album?
Kill 'Em All, which is after their bass player died. So they basically cut out the bass basically in it. But there's so much rawness, and, like, you could feel it. And that's what I care about. I don't care if it's like, first of all, I don't know, because I'm not a music person, but there's something in everything. And I try to teach people this in marketing, right? People want rawness. They want emotion. They want, like, I've said this forever. If Christina Aguilera or even Alicia Keys, if any of them came out with just a guitar and sang about something in here, they would have the number one album that they've ever had in their life, right? Because that's all we want. That's all we want. We don't need the backup singers. We don't need the, like, it's like Dave Matthews is great, but when he has backup singers and all the extra produced crap,
Yeah, strip
it's
it
the
down.
same.
Give me some Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, exactly. Or even the Foo Fighters, like,
Oh man,
their music's good, but when I've heard their live concert where it's raw, it's always better.
oh man,
He
I saw
sounds
Foo
better
Fighters.
raw.
Oh, I saw Foo Fighters once in Austin, behind Stubbs, I think. It was this big open field, and I was lucky enough to score like a VIP badge and all this nonsense. I just happened to know people who had them, and we got there, and I'll never forget because nobody knew the Foo Fighters were playing. It
Yeah.
was a surprise. Like I
Oh,
knew
that's
because I had been
awesome.
let in on it. So there's like 3,000 or 4,000 people on this field that just slants up. And then there's the stage, and and it's during South by. So there's another band, a local band that's playing. And then after their first song, Grohl and the rest of the band comes out, and the place goes nuts. And David Grohl comes up to the microphone and he goes, "Hey, we need to make a deal right now. This is a great band, and what we're doing is horrible. You're going to stay, and they're going to play after our set, and you're staying." And we were all like, "Yes, Mr. Grohl." Yes, we are. And then he started playing, and they opened up with Monkey Wrench, right? And that's like one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs. Like I know a lot of people love, I mean, there's so many great songs, right? But when he got to the break, everybody's got their phones up recording. And he goes, "Phones down, nerds, dance." And I'm back kind of high. I could have been way up there, but I was back high and I just watched all the phones came down.
That's awesome.
And everybody started dancing. And I was like, that's what we're missing, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's trying to capture the moment instead of have the moment.
Yeah.
And this sounds like old guy talking, right?
No,
it's real.
It's right. It's real and it's right. And it's, it's not it sounds get off my lawnish, but it's not. We've lost that ability to enjoy. We've lost that ability to just feel. And that's something that I'm learning more and more. I'm not even noticing I'm doing it, but like if I'm meeting someone or whatever, my phone is down. It's down. I don't touch it. Like, when that like, I'm not a religious person. I found out my dad was sick last year, and my uncle, he's a priest. He goes, "I know you're not religious." He's like, "Just make a promise to God." And so I did. And I promised him, I'll go to church, every Sunday for the next year. So I did it. And
you got 52 weeks, Lord. I'm giving you 52. I know,
pretty much. And then at the end, my son's like, "No, we're going to keep going." But the thing is, when I'm there, I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not that religious, so I'm not really whatever. But what it does do is it puts my phone down for an hour.
Yeah.
And my brain and sadly, I should be listening. I'm not, but there's something about just putting that phone down, listening. And like, again, because my brain, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD or something. I'm sitting there, and then every once in a while, like one of the things, like there's a good priest, and he kind of just makes whatever they're talking about, just brings it into everyday life stuff. It's always just simple things about, being thoughtful or whatever. So then you'll catch a couple of those things. And then, so now my ADD runs on that message and I go, but there's something about it. I think because of that, now I'm looking for times where I'm like, no, the phone is down.
Yeah.
I don't need to check it. I don't. And because the watch is bad too. Cause now you're sitting there like, and you're like, oh my God.
I don't have mine connected. So I don't.
Oh, you don't?
Stuff, no. And I've got a Garmin as a runner, right? So it's like I could have it bring up my messages and stuff, but I'm like, no, I want to be able to look somewhere, see the time, and not get sucked into the void.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's funny with the phone or the watch. Like, I tell everyone back in the day when this came out, this was going to change the world, right?
Yeah.
We had all these, like when I was at ESPN, we were coming up with idea after idea about wearable tech. And remember the Google glasses, like everything was going to be amazing. And then again, I really think something happened at that time period. I don't know if it was whatever, but they were like, no, you're just going to count your steps and check your heartbeat. And that's it.
Well, so this is a weird humble brag, but I had Simon Sinek on a podcast I had, and we were talking. He was
Who is
on
that?
Simon Sinek. He's a business consultant, so he wrote. We had a TED talk that ended up with like 80 million views,
Wow.
called "The Power of Why" or "Start with Why."
Okay.
And he started talking. It's all about branding and how you shouldn't start with what a company does, but why a company does it. I mean, that thing just exploded for him, right? So we're having this conversation, and he is known as like kind of a brand, just genius. And so we started talking about something, and he asked me a question about my family, and I ended up mentioning that, when we go to dinner, that we'll phone stack. My youngest daughter at the time, I figured when we were doing this, it was probably, it was a good 8 years ago, right? Maybe longer than that. And so my daughter, who at the time would have been like 13 or 14, she would say, "Can we leave our phones in the car?" Because she would want us to go have dinner and hang out.
Yeah.
But it would always end up being something else. So I told him, I said, so we do this phone stacking thing. And I do it at conferences and stuff too, which I don't know if you've ever done it, Matt, but basically everybody has to leave their phone on, and it can't be it can be in vibrate mode, but it needs to be on. And then you stack them. And when they start to go off, and they will, whoever reaches for their phone first has to pick up the tab.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we just called it stacking. And I'll never forget, we were there.
You're like, and my poor 13-year-old, she was buying dinners like, you're like, thank God, yes, I don't have to pay for it.
But I'll never forget, we were at a really fancy steakhouse. I think it was called Butcher and Singer in Philly. And there were like 8 of us, and we're drinking really nice wine and all that kind of stuff. And finally, one of my friends was like, "Fuck it, I'm loaded." And he just grabbed his phone and started going. And we were like, "Well, good for you. And thank you, sir." And then we just started ordering everything. We just really hit. I think he got stuck with a good couple of grand.
It would have been great. Like, you use your watch and you just text your friend and be like, "I want you to send a text message to me every minute."
Yeah.
Hour.
Hit me up. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So it sounds like an emergency.
I want to get back to the music thing for a minute, because I think part of what's gone from performers today, or at least studio performers, is that they don't really love music anymore.
Yeah, I think there's.
I think they're in it for. I'm not saying they're just in it for the money or in it for the fame, and maybe they really do appreciate what they're doing. But you start to look at, like, back in the day we had liner notes, and you would read about who performed with who and this and that. And you can do it in Wikipedia. It's still a thing. But I think about, and I don't want to keep harping on Prince, but I'll do for a minute. Like, Fleetwood Mac was one of his favorite bands. He loved Fleetwood Mac. And Stevie Nicks wrote "Stand Back" as a response to Little Red Corvette. I don't see it. When I listen, I don't see it. But she sent the song to Prince and told him he is uncredited with keyboards on "Stand Back."
Oh, wow.
He wanted to be a part of it, but he didn't want who he was to overshadow what was happening. And
I've watched the Eagles documentary like 1,000 times.
Right.
I watch it up until they break up, because then I think they try to create their own narrative. But like, to me, it's really raw. You ever see it?
I have not seen it, but I know a lot about the Eagles.
Amazing. And a lot, but if you know a lot about the Eagles, you have to.
Yeah.
If you just like music, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because Jackson Brown's in it, and you start to see kind of like what you're saying, how many of these people just jumped in and helped, or like I didn't know that. What's that song? I was standing on the corner in Winslow,
Arizona.
That's Jackson Brown's song. Yeah, that was a Jackson Brown song that he couldn't finish.
Yep.
And because that lyric was finished by Glenn Frey, so he gave it to him. Yeah. And there's so much of that sharing, because again, to your point, they love music. They love talking music. They love playing music. When their concerts were over, and that's what happened with Don Felder, was they were up in Boston, and after a full concert, he sat and played with them till dawn
Yeah.
because they love music.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair that, like, I'm not going to hold any of these people accountable that they don't love it as much. I just think the world has changed.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever lived in a world where people brainstormed and just did, like they just did. That's like, to me, my favorite thing to do in our world is a hackathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won at ESPN. Like, we created this game cast. It never got produced, but to this day, it's better than anything. And that was like, 2014. But there is something amazing. Like, and that's something I wish, like I was thinking about now, is like, I wish they had, I don't want to say a commune, but I would love to sit around with people and brainstorm and make things. Like, because I sit here and I'm 50 now, and like, people come up to me and I can help them solve all these things, and and it's in my head. And you think, well, what if there's 10 of these?
Yeah.
And it would be fun. I don't know what you'd call it, but I just love solving problems. And, I do it for free. It's just, there's something about creating, and there's something about making, and that's where we're all similar, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's music or, like, I try to explain this to my son because he draws, but he doesn't know what he wants to do. And he's thinking he might leave. He's in college. He's thinking he might not be an artist. And I'm like, there's nothing better than creating and seeing it out in the world. Like, even high school teens wearing my stuff, or the first time I went in a store back in the day and I made these how to draw books for Post Cereal.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was awesome. It was like, it was Marvin the Martian. Me and my friend, we broke them up. There was a set of 10, and we broke them up. I had Marvin the Martian, Tom and Jerry. I had 2 more. And like, when you walk in a store and see your artwork on cereal boxes, it was like, what? There's almost nothing better, because it validates everything.
I remember,
you know what I mean?
I remember seeing a logo that we did at Engine on the side of a semi-truck on a road trip, right? And I was 6 or 7 hours away from home.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is that?
I've been on these tournaments, and you're down in Maryland, you're down in Delaware, and then, because I've done a bunch of high schools, or I've done like club sport teams, and you're like, oh my God, there it is. And it's cool. Actually, I had a guy on the Yankees, Gleyber Torres, he left this year. Mm-hmm. But he had my logo on his hand, on his elbow, on it. He had it everywhere. I think they made him cut it back. But every time he would get up to bat, it would just make me smile.
That's amazing.
It wasn't even that great a logo. It was his idea that he wanted, and it was fine. But there's just something about it. It just feels nice.
And I think what you're talking about with collaboration, right? Like, let's take the Eagles, for example, right? You got Glenn Frey, you got Don Henley, you got Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh was with the James Gang before he comes over there. You have people who were crazy successful in their own right and successful there. But it's that energy of the team. It's that energy of the group, right? Yeah. Like, you look at Jimmy Page and, so you look at a Zeppelin, right? And Plant was a great lyricist, or another weird thing. I actually had beers with Joe Walsh.
Oh my God, that's a bucket list.
I was at the MGM Grand. I remember this. Rick Springfield was headlining.
Of course he was.
Because my wife and her sister went off to stalk him. And I ended up, they had Who's Line was going. So Drew Carey and Colin Mockery and all of the original Who's Line guys were there. And Joe Walsh was there. Because Joe Walsh met through Drew Carey's show that he had. Right. Joe Walsh wrote that theme song. And so he was in that collective. Right. And so anyway, I remember afterwards, I was just waiting on my wife and her sister to come back. And I sat down at the bar, not knowing I sat down right next to Joe Walsh.
That's funny.
And then I looked over and I saw Drew Carey in the corner, and I just turned and went, hey, Drew Carey is, hey, Joe Walsh. He's
That's
like,
so funny.
I get that a lot. And I was like,
Ah,
he was super quiet actually, and really nice. Which I know he's a maniac, but
well, he is. But if you watch that documentary,
yeah,
I think he's a maniac when he drinks. But when he talks, his thoughts are very deep
yeah.
and very philosophical. And some of the lines he has in there, like there's a great line that I always think of. He goes, "When you look back at your life," he goes, your life is a series of chaos and running around and all these awful things and everything's terrible. He goes, but when you look back at it, he goes, it looks like a finely crafted novel. He goes, but when you're living it, it don't.
Yeah.
And he's right.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you think about the guitar duet at the end of Hotel California.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And it's funny, but I mean, let's talk about frickin' Freebird, another
Yeah.
amazing guitar duet. Right?
Yeah.
But you think about the collective within those bands was so crazy.
But that was written only by Don Felder. That was written by Don Felder considering Joe.
Okay.
So I have a whole theory on the Eagles if you're interested in it.
Yeah, man. I got to see the Hell Freezes Over tour. That's the only time I got to see them.
I've never seen them, but I watched. So I watched the documentary, right? But something wasn't sitting well with me. I'm like, they're telling us what happened, but I'm like, something here is weird. So,
Okay.
and I'm not a big reader, but I got the audiobook from Don Felder, which you would actually like because he's from Florida.
Okay.
And it talks about him growing up in like a tin roof kind of shack and like they were poor. And he explains how money is always important to him because they had nothing,
Yeah.
And it was funny. He was talking about, there was this little guy, Tommy, that was always hanging around and he would teach him some stuff. And he goes, one day he's like, I'm out on tour and he goes, oh, and then little Tommy showed up. He goes, you may know him. His name's Tom Petty. Really great. It has that Florida connection. But
yeah.
what I think happened in listening to all of it was I think that Glenn Frey was so eager to make a rock band. But Glenn Frey was not a rocker.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Frey was better as a country guy.
Well, they started off. I mean, they had a banjo player from Gainesville who quit because they abandoned bluegrass and country.
Well, that was the thing, and that was the irony in all of it, is that Glenn Frey iced him out because he wanted to stay country. But then he brought in Felder and then later Walsh, which made it rock. But I think he resented Felder because he would make fun of him that Felder would always go off. But Felder, like he said, he goes, I always had to work for my money. So when we were out, he goes, I was working hard and I was constantly putting together arrangements because that's what he was known for. And this actually goes to the Led Zeppelin documentary I watched, which so boring. I fell asleep twice, but there's a lot of great stuff in it. But as people, they're not very exciting. But they were all just incredibly accomplished studio players that were amazing, which kind of reminds me of the Eagles. And he said he just kept playing and playing and playing. And I think because I was watching this thing once about Glenn Frey when I was in college, he was on Bob Costas, later with Bob Costas. And he mentioned the top 5 Eagles songs. And Bob Costas goes, I noticed you didn't mention Hotel California. Because I think he resented that was their biggest hit because it was a Felder song. And as normal, because he's so talented, is Don Henley just took it, put the notes to it. And then Felder would say later, he would change a word or whatever to get the writing credits. But I think he felt as it grew, you had Felder doing the guitar stuff. And then you had what's his face doing the writing without him, by the way. He started just going off on his own. And I think that the way he would get back at, I think he would go after Felder, which is he fired a couple of people because he just was I think he was a thin-skinned guy.
So I don't know. So this is going to tie in just a second. I don't know that all of the great performers do this, but Petty and Prince both did this. they wouldn't listen to a track they just recorded in the studio. They would take it and listen to it in their car because they wanted to hear it how consumers were going to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. And Mike Campbell, who was one of Petty's guitarists, like the guitarist, right? He was the one that was doing most of it. No offense to, Epstein, but Campbell would write songs as well. And he had written a song on his own and took it to Tom, and they went out and sat in the car and they listened to it. And Tom said, I don't think it's a heartbreaker song. And he was like, all right. And Stan Lynch was getting ready to leave the band because he felt when Tom released Full Moon Fever, Stan Lynch was like, what the fuck is that? That's not rock and roll. My sister got lucky, married a yuppie. What are you doing? We're rock and roll. And Petty was like, no, there's so much more, right? So Lynch is leaving.
And I never thought of him as a rocker. I always thought of him more folk rock, right?
Well, Rolling Stone magazine called him the Bruce Springsteen of the South. And there were other publications that called him like America's answer to the Rolling Stones, which at the most I would see him as a Happy Dylan. If you wanted to.
Yeah, I would think folksy hippie kind of guy with a guitar that would be happy playing in a cafe.
Yeah, absolutely. But you listen to his early stuff when they were Mudcrutch, before they became the Heartbreakers. Like American Girl was a Mudcrutch song.
Okay.
Right. And when they travel across America on a couple of $1,000 that I think it was Campbell's dad gave them. They made a demo, played it for his dad, who was like a judge in Gainesville, and he was like, "Get to LA, see what you can do." And so they get out there to LA. While they're doing a rehearsal, they would do American Girl, but they were the Heartbreakers now, and they were the Heartbreakers. They were not Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah,
and the studio basically came over and said, "What's that song?" Somebody from the studio, and they said, "It's an old Mudcrutch song. We just do it to warm up." And they go, "No. It's a Heartbreaker song." And another thing, you're Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh, wow.
And so they changed all that. And but their early stuff was rock and roll. Tom saw Kiss. That was one of his first concerts. And it really pissed him off because he thought they were so untalented. And
they were. Yeah.
And he thought Rock and Roll All Night was just one of the lamest songs ever.
Yeah.
And
if you break down Kiss songs, they're terrible.
Well,
they're really terrible.
And I like Kiss because without Kiss, there probably wouldn't be Cheap Trick. Right. And I'm a huge Trick fan. So, but Tom comes back and goes, all you have to do is write a rockin' song with the words rock and roll in it, and it'll be a hit. And then he wrote a song called Anything That's Rock Is All Right. And it became a minor hit. And that pissed him off. Right. So he was constantly getting frustrated. But that song that Campbell plays him in the car was Boys of Summer.
Oh my God.
So Mike then contacted Don and said, "Hey, I've got this song. I know you're doing a solo thing." So, and then later, I think it was like a year later after that song was #1 for a long time, Tom was like, "It's a good song. I didn't say it wasn't. I just said it wasn't for us."
Well, but it's true. Some things are good, but again, you have a narrative or you have a brand, and it's got to feel right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, just because he could have recorded it and it might not have worked for his voice. Like I can't imagine him singing that song as much. But then look at one of the Eagles' biggest hits was not done by them. They did a really bad version of Desperado, and then what's her name? And she's very much in the documentary.
Linda Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
She did her version of it, and then they re-recorded it, and that's now considered one of their great hits. But it was only because she basically tweaked it and made it.
They opened for her a lot, right?
What happened was, and you got to see, you're going to love this documentary.
I watched this weekend. Yeah.
It's like I said, after they break up, it's not the same. I think they kind of go with it. But the way they met was, they show you coming in was that Linda Ronstadt would take famous, because again, it was like a commune, LA back then. And they went on the road and they grabbed that's where they really met. They grabbed Don Henley and Glenn Fry, and they played in her band and toured.
Okay.
And then they're like, "Oh, you guys are great. Do you want to join the band?" And they said, I think it was Don looked at him and said, "I just want to play with you." And he said, "Well, I just want to play with you." And that's how it got started.
Yeah.
And they said too that she could have been mad at them, but she actually kept kind of tutoring them and kept working with them. And she was a great mentor for them. Again, that's that idea, right? That they love the music so much. They just want good music.
Yeah.
Whether it's yours or mine, or I just want to be part of it. I was telling my cousin a similar story was, I was listening to, again, I'm a little younger. So for me, Van Halen was everything, right?
Oh,
like
man.
just as a kid, just amazing.
Diver Down was one of the dopest tours of all time.
Oh, I actually got to see him in high school. It was Sammy Hagar, but it still was just an amazing show.
1984 was great. Oh my God.
Yeah. So 1984, they said, this was Alex Van Halen. He goes, "This would have been our first ever and our only number one. And the reason why they lost is they lost to Beat It and Michael Jackson."
Was that Jump?
And 1984 Jump is on it, but the album was supposed to be
album.
number one.
Got it.
Yeah, but they missed out to Michael Jackson's album. And the thing he said about that was he thinks that broke up the band because Eddie, they're like, "What are you doing? You're playing on someone else?" He goes, "Oh no, it's just this kid. He's a nice kid. I'm just playing a little backup guitar." Like, I don't even know if he credited it, but he goes, "Also, when I was in there, he's like, some of the notes were bad, so I just kind of fixed it or whatever." And that ended up beating out his album for number one.
So Eddie beat out
and they said,
Halen.
Yeah. And then that's what Alex said that made David Lee Roth, who was always, he loved him as a performer, but he said he was always jealous, and he thinks that's what made David Lee Roth think that he was going to, go out and be just.
And Michael didn't want Eddie.
Oh, he didn't?
He wanted Prince.
Oh, funny.
And Prince gave him the finger and said, "Bad?" He's like, "Michael, you've never beaten anything in your life." Right? And he was like, "I'm not anybody's guitar player," right? And so then he gets funny. Eddie after that. Yeah. It was there's so much there. It's like I never was in on the Van Hagar thing. I never was in on all that. It was like I appreciated what they were doing, but David was such a part of that. Yeah. And on the Diver Down tour, I think it was Eddie and Alex's, was their dad or their uncle who plays the clarinet on Big Bad Bill.
The dad had a band. I don't know if I don't remember an uncle, but the dad was a working musician. That's how he made it.
So there's a clarinet solo, and it was another Van Halen who came out and played the clarinet solo on that song. It's like a jazzy bop. And I was just like, this family, what the hell?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the funny thing was everyone credited the dad because he was the music guy, but it's the mom that she had set in her head that they were going to be classically trained pianists. And
because
Eddie, she hammered in, and she hammered that into them. Like they were like very, I think it was like a very Asian mentality of just like, this is your thing. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. And that's actually what drove them to be like, the dad was the music, but the mom was the hard work and the discipline. And they were amazing. And
then Eddie and Alex switched instruments, right? Because,
yes.
Yeah.
And it was something dumb. I forget that the reason was just like the guitar didn't fit. It was like a small thing that they flipped midway.
Yeah.
And he goes, I just happen to be a better drummer than guitar. Yeah.
People ask me about the greatest guitarist of all time. And I'll put Prince up there. But, and I'll also say, it may be Al Di Meola or John McLaughlin or one of these like old school fusion jazz guys, right? Like there's so many, it's weird to say this stuff, but how many guitar players have a solo that has its own name?
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing like, look, I am not a music person the way you are. Yeah. I'm not a music person the way you are. But again, it's almost like listening
you are.
Well, I mean, you know all these different groups and bands, but like to me, Eddie Van Halen was a juggernaut.
Oh.
You know, there's one thing I tell people when they're struggling, they're in a bad place. I always say, be undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Be so good they can't say no. Eddie Van Halen, like, there's nothing to compare what he did. Like,
Right.
you look at it on the levels of Bach and Brahms, like, there are things, the effect, because it's not like maybe there were people with their fingers that could have been, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the impact and the ripple effects, and like, I try to explain it to my kids. I'm like, you don't understand. The entire formula of music in the 80s was to be Van Halen.
Nobody
Everybody,
did.
all those hair band, yeah, like,
Yeah.
you know, and someone was like, well, wasn't that Led Zeppelin? I'm like, sort of, but there was more charisma.
Yeah.
Everyone in Van Halen had charisma. That was that, and that's what Alex said in the book, where he's like, look, our thing was just to be a great band to have at your party.
Yeah.
We just wanted you to have a great time. He goes, and that's what Van Halen was.
Yeah.
We were just a great time. He goes, we just
That's
wanted.
it.
He goes, yeah, we wanted you to feel like your ticket was, you know,
Yeah.
we earned your money.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the way to do everything, right? Is to worry about the customer and making sure that you're giving them more than they ask for.
It gets back to Dave Grohl and him re-recording everything on the first Foo Fighters album because he wasn't happy with the way it sounded, and he re-recorded all the instruments.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you ever heard that. So Dave Grohl sat in with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers when Stan Lynch left for Saturday Night Live. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
And so when they went to the first rehearsal, this is in Dave Grohl's book that he released a few years back. He said, we went in the rehearsal and I am doing what I do, which is trying to kill the drums. I am physically trying to break the drum heads all the time. And he goes, and we started playing, and then I noticed that nobody was playing, and I looked up, and Tom was like, he goes, bring it down a little. Bring it down a little. But then they asked him if he wanted to become a heartbreaker.
Oh, that's great.
And he had not
Did you ever
the Foo
hear
Fighters yet, but Nirvana was gone. That, and then the other, just real quick, this is one of my favorite stories. So Thin Lizzy, right? So Thin Lizzy, before they named themselves, I'm sorry, Steely Dan. Steely Dan, before they named themselves Steely Dan, were a college band, and the drummer was Chevy Chase.
Yeah, I knew that.
Oh my
So
God!
did you watch the Yacht Rock documentary?
No.
Yeah, Chevy Chase was their drummer.
Yeah, so crazy.
I have a great story about what an awful person he was.
Oh, he's the worst.
We lived up. I used to live up by Bedford, New York, which a lot of rich people live there. It's like a quiet place that famous rich people can live and no one will bother them. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there at a car wash, and this guy is like, oh my God, you have no idea what you just missed. I said, what? He goes, Chevy Chase comes out, and he's got one of those like MGs or whatever, and he comes from the car wash. He takes only a $1 bill and has it folded in half like this, mm-hmm. and he's going up to the poor workers and pointing at all their mistakes. He goes, for $1 bill. And this was in the 90s, and that was a shit tip. And I was like, what an awful human being.
It's fine. I tell people all the time, you can be Bill Murray or you can be Chevy Chase.
Exactly.
Always be Bill Murray.
So that's another documentary you have to watch, the Yacht Rock documentary.
Okay.
They actually called the main guy from Steely Dan, and they showed the voicemail. He goes, what's this about? He's like, Yacht Rock. He goes, what?
What did you call me?
Goes, what are you calling it? He goes, what are you calling it? And then he hung up on him.
Yeah, he did.
But they actually, I didn't know how. First of all, I didn't know Steely Dan was considered yacht rock. But
they are
considered. Now. No, but they explain in a very complimentary way how talented they were.
Yeah.
And how they basically took melody and they basically brought a lot of depth of music. And that's why this whole thing that kind of spawned from it got bubblegummy, but it started in this really good place. And it was, I thought it was really interesting. I always knew Steely Dan because my brother listened to it, but I didn't understand like how revolutionary they were.
Right.
And then later they actually had a lot of black artists on there saying, no, we like yacht rock because it is very much black R&B inspired. It's a lot of the same tenets. So that's that tangent.
Yeah.
Going back to the other tangent about Dave Grohl, I forget where I heard this because the person was like taking credit for this. It was on a podcast or something. Originally, Kurt Cobain wasn't going to allow Dave Grohl to play on the Unplugged set.
Really?
Because he hit the drums too hard. And they said it was too loud for that. So I forget who suggested it. They suggested those fan brushes.
The fan brushes, or put pillows in the
something.
Yes,
So the fan brushes, if you listen, it's fan brush because he would just be like,
but he can't help himself.
No, he can't, because he says there's another great documentary he did, Sound City. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's the rawness I always agree with. Like, there's something about a rawness of things and one takes and stuff like that. And that's what I feel like Dave Grohl should have been doing this whole time, you know?
You're going to love Ren. So Ren does one take videos. His most popular things. He's wearing like a lav mic and he's just playing guitar and this stuff. I'll send you some stuff over. You know, on the whole yacht rock and category thing, do you remember when Guns N' Roses won Pop Single of the Year for Sweet Child of Mine?
Sort of. I was still probably in like seventh grade.
They wouldn't come out and accept it. And finally, Steven Adler, who was the drummer, I think he ended up being a writer for ESPN later too. But he ended up. But Steven Adler came out, looked at the award, and said, "We're not a pop band. Thank you." And then he put it back and walked away and left the award on there. And I was just like, "That is rock and roll," but you've also got a pop fan base. So
yeah, but it's still on brand.
They did not care. Right.
Yeah, but it's also on brand, and it's a smart brand move, right? Because you don't want to get thrown. Because they were still so young at that point.
Oh yeah,
they didn't want to get thrown into that category.
I saw Soundgarden open for Guns N' Roses.
Oh my!
And it was on the Use Your Illusion tour, and Axl came out and played trumpet at the beginning of November Rain.
Oh wow!
He was so good.
Well, I put him in that category with Prince, where he's his own person. He's got a lot of musical thoughts. Like, if you really think back at the choices that were made after that amazing, maybe one of the greatest metal albums of all time, after that, a lot of those songs, a lot of those choices, orchestras are involved. Like, that was definitely
After Appetite. After Appetite. Yeah. They had an album before that called GNR Lies.
Yes, great album.
I found an original print in a little like flea market in Oxford, England.
Oh wow!
I remember I saw it because they re-released it later, right? And I just remember I was going, and there was one other track on there. It wasn't Get in the Ring. I can't remember what it was, but it was a track that they didn't produce again because it was so vile.
There's like 2 or 3 on there. Yeah. No, there's one. Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's another one. I used to love her, but I had to kill her.
Yeah. That was one of the first songs I loved. Yeah. Well, not one of the first, but it was a song that I used to play on guitar all the time. I knew I'd missed her. I had to keep her. She's buried right here in my backyard.
But again, it's so different. Like, I never would have been exposed to that music if they didn't do it.
You think about that time frame, right? Like, think about Blazing Saddles couldn't come out now. Some of those songs couldn't come out now, right? Yeah. It's like funny. You think, even go back to David Cassidy. Like, I can't remember what his big pop song was, but if you listen or read the lyrics, it was a stalker.
Oh yeah.
You're just like going, what is happening right now?
I remember I was a really
even the Police, right? It's like some of their songs were very stalky.
There's a lot of things about that, or like people being really connected to women in a scary way or whatever. Like, I remember my dad, this was like early 80s or whatever, and he was giving us crap about our music or something like that. And I don't know, in my head, I was always kind of a wise ass kid. And I was like, he loved Carly Simon. And I'm like, well, what about this Carly Simon song? And I started repeating the lyrics. He's like, all right, that's enough. I'm like, this isn't appropriate wording here for children.
There you go.
They're not talking about baking brownies. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
I can't help myself now because we've been doing this, but do you know the uncredited backup singer on You're So Vain?
No.
You'll never be able to unhear it. Mick Jagger.
Oh my gosh.
Who was reportedly one of the three people it could have been. I think it ended up being Warren Beatty. But which
it
makes
is.
sense.
Yeah, I think it's Warren Beatty.
Beatty has that look, and he would wear an ascot to a party.
Yeah.
Mick Jagger. So you think about both of those giant mouths. That's all I can think of is, oh my God, all the food was scared.
But again, because those people just loved music.
They just wanted, and again, Mick is uncredited because he just wanted to do it, and probably it would have been some sort of a record label thing. Or you look at the Traveling Wilburys. Yeah, how that came together. Did you ever hear of that story?
No, but I was just listening to something, and they're like, "That's not Wilbury enough." That was a term they would use. He's not enough. Wilbury.
So George Harrison was recording Cloud 9, and it was at that time where they would release the album, and then on the CD, because people didn't always buy CDs, they were releasing the bonus track. There was always a bonus track. And so the studio told him that he needed a bonus track for Cloud 9, which is a great album, right? I think the NFL draft use got my mind set on you for the longest time, right? But it's going to take a whole lot of spending money. Yeah. So Tom found out that George was in town recording and went to the studio. At the time, Dylan was staying with Tom in LA. So Tom's at the studio. And George is like, I got to write this bonus track. I don't know what to write, blah, blah. And he goes, well, why don't you come over to my house? Bob's over at the house and we'll figure something out. So the three of them get there and they start writing. And then Roy Orbison was in concert that night. And it was the last show of the tour. So they go to see Roy play. They go backstage. They start telling him that they're working on a song for George. And he goes, well, I'm done with the tour. I was going to stay in LA for a little while. And so he ends up going back over to Tom's house with the other three, right? Jeff Lynne, I don't know how he got pulled in, but you got Jeff Lynne as well, right? So they record Handle with Care, right? And record Handle with Care. They brought in some drummer. If that drummer's been interviewed saying, I just sat there and kept my mouth shut. I was in the presence of greatness and I knew who was doing who the favor.
That's so
they send it to Sony or whoever the record label was. And they said, okay, we don't know what this is, but it's not a bonus track. This is like a band. This is like an album.
Yeah.
So they spent a week and recorded all of those amazing songs on Wilburys 1, right?
That's all.
And the reason they decided to do it was Mark Knopfler had Kentucky Headhunters at the time. I think he had put that together after Dire Straits. And they just liked that idea of just creating a completely fictional band with a fictional backstory and all that. But that album is like one of the greatest albums of all time.
Well, it's funny because I wish I could remember. Somebody was telling that story about not being Wilbury enough.
That's great.
And I forget what that was from. It was one of these podcasts where they were saying, that's just not Wilbury. But the one thing the guy mentioned, which is so true, it kind of reminds me, like you've seen those memes when they give you the ages of all the sitcom people back in the 80s, and they're like 48, 35, and they all look like they're in their 60s. Mm-hmm. Well, the Traveling Wilburys were considered old fogies. They weren't. They were like 52 was the oldest, I think was Orbison. Like it wasn't, they weren't that old. And I remember looking at that and I'm like, God, when that came out, I thought they were all in a nursing home.
Well, and it's funny because in one documentary I did see that talked about the Wilburys. They're sitting around the table. This is being recorded. And they're all talking about who's going to sing on what songs. And Orbison goes, fellas, can we just acknowledge there's only one singer at the table? And George kind of looked a little like, I can sing. But Tom and Dylan were both like, yeah, we acknowledge it's you.
That's
But yeah, no, I all that stuff to me is just amazing, especially when you get the legal aspects and the different labels and all that kind of bullshit out of it. That's just my favorite. That's why I love seeing, even like, I think about Eminem and all the duets he's doing now. Although I'm sure they call them collabs, right? You don't duet in hip
yeah.
hop. Uh, but yeah, no, I wish more musicians could just cross and work with other people and not have to have it be uncredited.
Well, I think there's a few reasons for it, right? One, the world is much more litigious, so that's harder.
Oh man.
But if you think back to the old timers, they had juice.
Yeah.
So if Frank Sinatra is going to do something, Frank Sinatra is going to
Right.
do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a lot of those guys, Tom Petty, any of them, they're going to make a phone call and there aren't as many people like that
No.
anymore.
Or Prince breaking with Warner and just
Yeah,
saying, no, you don't own me. That's not a thing.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's just so much greatness when you see that. Like, Tom, I saw Petty, and Alan Jackson, not Alan Jackson, Jackson Brown open for him.
Oh,
And,
wow.
afterwards, Tom came out. Like, Jackson Brown got a lot of applause, but,
Yeah.
Tom came out and the place went nuts. And Tom goes, I haven't done anything. I could just be up here stoned out of my mind and screw up the whole night. One of those two things is not true. But we're going to bring Jackson Brown out here and he's going to play with us for a couple of songs because we are not worthy of being on the stage he's on. And then brought
Well, I
him back
think
out, and it was unbelievable. I mean,
if you watch that Eagles documentary, they really explain, because I never understood, and I think a lot of people are like this. I don't understand all of the Jackson Brown stuff, but like when you go back and you look at Asylum Records and you look at the basis of it, he brought in so many people. He brought all those people in. He brought in his friends, and even when they sold the label, the guy was like, "Well, I had to help Jackson because he brought in all this amazing talent to
yeah,
me." He goes, so I think that's why he's so revered. There's a great, I actually look at it as like a life lesson. There's a great part in that Eagles documentary when Glenn Fry is explaining that he doesn't know how to write a song. And he said, because he actually sang backup with Bob Seger.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so he's on that song. Oh, what's that one? I can hear. Oh, like, come on. I forget it. Oh, and I was lonely down by the river. Oh, Traveling Man.
Okay.
Traveling.
Yep.
So he's the background, like, Traveling Man. That's him. So he said, oh, he was a teenager. He said, and he just came through so good. And he was supposed to join a band with him, but then his mom found him smoking pot in his neighbor's yard, and she banned it. But he said, I talked to Bob Seger, and he's like, what about writing songs? He's like, you have to write your own music. He's like, but what if they're bad? He's like, they're going to be bad. He's like, just keep writing. He goes, but then when he got out, they went to LA, and him and I forget the guy's name. They ended up becoming writing partners for a long time. They took over Jackson Brown's apartment, and then they said there was like an illegal cubbyhole underneath that Jackson, to save money, he would live in the cubbyhole. And they said every day he had this teapot. He said every day the teapot would go on, and then he would start the beginning of Doctor My Eyes or whatever, and he would play, seeing the good, and he goes, he would play it, and he would play it over and over again. He goes, and I would hear him sing. I hear him sing the words. He goes, then he would stop, and then the tea kettle would go off. He goes, and then he would do it again and again. He goes, and that's how you write. He goes, time, hard work. And I thought that was such a great, the way you present. It's true. It's true about our careers. It's true about everything. How do you do it? It's just time.
Yeah.
You just keep at it. You have to be maniacal, driven, detail oriented. And like you said, you have to love music, that like you obsess over it, even every little detail. And he said that's how he learned how to write a song, is because Jackson Browne. And I thought that was that's why I love the documentary. Like I go to bed to it because it can put me to sleep.
They have to meet each other, man. They have to get to know each other. Stephen King has a great book called On Writing. It just explains his style, like how he does it. And he talks about himself in it. But when you start talking about somebody who becomes a true master, right? Like let's go back to Eddie, right? Eddie Van Halen, true master of the guitar, does all kinds of crazy stuff. You could put Angus Young up there and stuff, but Eddie redefined, like not just hammer pulls, like so much. He was the whammy king, for God's sake, right?
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff. But if you really want to understand how good he was, go back and watch. I think there's the most popular version of the Eruption solo is one where they were Van Hagar, and it starts off with Sammy saying, "It is my favorite part of the show. I get to go kick back, have a cold one, and watch the greatest rock and roll guitarist of all time."
Yeah.
During that entire set of Eruption, Eddie's smiling. Yeah. And he's got a cigarette on the end of one of the things, and he's smoking his cigarette, and he's blowing smoke rings while he's playing, and he's just like, that guitar is his body.
It is. And that book with Alex, he didn't have a life.
Yeah.
What they found out back in the day was that there was a lot of red tape, it was a lot of whatever to build a sound studio. But apparently there was no red tape and no zoning to build a racquetball court or something like that, or a handball court. He goes, so he built a handball court. It's just we filled it with musical stuff.
Nice.
And he said he spent every waking hour of his life just in that studio because he loved it. And there was another thing, and I saw this on an interview with David Lee Roth later, and Eddie was sitting next to him, and he kind of agreed to it. He said, you understand, Eddie had the mixing, and he had all that. And the thing that Alex says is they were obsessed with sound. They had this thing called the Brown Note, and from little age, they were so driven about music. Everything was about sound. Mm-hmm. That's why he brought in the drills and this and that, because they would hear sound in the world and think, how can I bring it in?
Oh, man.
But what David Lee Roth said was he would do all this stuff with the mixing. He goes, what people didn't realize was he would spend months and months trying to make sure whatever he did with mixing, he could do by hand. So all those noises, he goes, that's why you see like all of these things. And they pan to Eddie and he just kind of goes, yeah, I did.
That's beautiful.
He goes, so anything he played with a mixer, he would learn to somehow create, which is what made him amazing, is these were sounds no one's ever created, you know?
So good.
It's a whole other level, right? Yeah. Some people are playing music. This guy's not playing music.
No.
He's making sound. He's making...
That's it, right? Like Stevie Ray Vaughan was amazing, but he had a lane. Yeah. Eddie had no lane.
No lane. He created the lane. He carved the lane. And I forget, I'm on some sort of thing on social media where it's just like great Eddie Van Halen moments.
Okay.
And it just comes up and you just sit and watch for like a minute and you're like, gosh, darn it, was he amazing? You know, just amazing. It's just, and like you said, always smiling, always happy.
It was just easy. He got to a point where it became easy to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it was easy because he worked so damn hard.
Never stopped.
I mean, it was his life's journey. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame. But then, even then, like the band was ruined, so it's not like I don't know that they would have been able to make music after that. I think when his son came in, he wanted to play with his son, but I also think that kind of ruined the band.
Wolfgang.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I do like Van Hagar. But one thing, and I saw this, I think he was on Joe Rogan, David Lee Roth.
I saw that episode.
Where he goes, what's the difference between you and Hagar? And he's like, well, which I always, even as a kid, I hated wimpy. I wanted my metal and rock to be hard. And like, I didn't like wimpiness.
Yeah.
And he's like, all of his songs are about love, love, love. He goes, and he started out, he goes, what are my songs? Ain't talking about love.
Yeah.
He goes, it's all like, it's not love.
Crying.
Yeah. It was, you know, David Lee Roth was like strippers and midgets and parties and fun. And and say Hagar was always talking about love. I'm like, if you just didn't sing about
Yeah,
love
I
so
mean,
much.
I don't disagree.
Oh,
OU812 was a good album,
yeah.
but
I
it
love
wasn't a Van
5150.
Halen album.
No, yeah. But 5150 to me, um, as a kid, it's a summer album to
5150,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And all the music on there just reminds me of summer,
I
like
get it.
Summer Nights, that song. Like I could feel being
Yeah,
out in a parking lot and just like, because the guitar is so
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And Right Now is a great song. Like
Oh,
it's
that
not
is a
the
great
same.
song. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a Dylan
Um,
influence, it almost feels like in the video. Yeah,
yes, that when I was a kid, that was a big deal because I think I was a senior when that came out.
yeah.
And yeah. But I never liked. That's why I never really liked Jump. I don't like the
I
piano.
thought
I
Jump
want
was
him to
way
be
too
my
poppy.
guitar. Yeah, I never
But
liked
I
it really,
got
to
it. It
be
was
honest.
like when Cheap Trick did The Flame. That Rick Nielsen
So
hated that song.
it's funny you
They're
say
only
that because
number
when you
one.
well, it's funny because when I was a kid, my brother was graduating high school. We were at a graduation party, and that song was brand new, and it was like number one.
Yeah.
And like I felt sad that his class was ending. I hear that song, and for some reason I've been hearing it a little bit lately. For some
Right.
reason, and I'm like, this is such a great time period song. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good song, man.
Yeah. It's so the thing for me, it's like just like you said with David saying that that's not the songs I want. Rick Nielsen quoted another Cheap Trick song when they asked him what he thought about The Flame. He goes, "Cheap Trick music is you're not the first one, you're not the last one, you're not even an in between. The song is you are the first one, you are the last one, you're my everything." And he's
Yeah.
like, that's our lyrics were, "We don't care if your legs are aching. I'm a California man." Those are actual lyrics. "I don't care if your legs are aching. I'm a California man." Right. And it's like, so there you go.
Again, could you ever write that lyric? Oh my
Yeah.
God, today. Oh my
Yep.
gosh. Um, no, the inappropriateness of musical lyrics and oh my
Yeah.
God, so funny.
It's good stuff.
But the 80s, like one of my all-time favorite movies, and it finally came out on streaming that you could buy it and own it. You ever see Better Off Dead?
Oh, yeah. I want
Just
my
one of the great. Yeah.
$2.
And so the Pie Guy podcast, I'm not sure if you know what the point is. I don't like pie really.
Okay.
Whatever. Pie Guy was a nickname my mom had for me.
Okay.
And because she called me Matty Pie Guy. I have no idea why. And there was a song and everything. But the point is that I thought really what I wanted, I said, I'd like a cool mascot or something or a character. And I immediately thought of the hamburger playing the guitar in Better Off Dead, and that's really where this comes
That's
from.
awesome.
Yeah, that, and then Loki had the clock in the Loki TV
Yeah,
show.
no, I thought it might be Miss
It's
whatever.
part of that, whatever. It was a mixture of that and the guitar hamburger.
That's awesome. Well, this was fun, man. I really enjoyed
This
being
was a
on the
lot of
show.
fun. We talked about nothing I expected to talk about,
But yet an
yeah,
hour and a half has flown by.
yes. So quickly, the Bureau. What is it? You work?
Yeah.
I looked at the site. It looked interesting.
So the Bureau is basically what I wanted to do when I was at Engine. The Bureau is a collective of leaders in digital. And so we've got
that's
about
awesome.
1,400 members. They are helping each other every day in Slack. We've got about 30,000 alumni now, which is a big number.
It's what we were just talking about with music.
Yeah, and that is my makeup, right? And
Oh, that's
so
great.
earlier today, somebody was talking about a struggle they're having with their creative process in AI, and 4 people jumped in to say, "Here's how I do it, so that it is a support mechanism, not a release valve." Right? It's really lifting me up. And so the community self-organizes now. So we have a women's leadership group of about 120. You have to have a logo. You have to brand yourself. So that is the women's leadership group. And they put on their own events and they do their own stuff, and we just support them. So really, it's kind of a platform and an ecosystem for people who are building stuff for the web.
Maybe I should join it.
You should.
That'd be cool. Yeah, because that's where I want to be. I love brainstorming. I started getting into AI at a episode with a friend of mine, and he really opened my eyes up to some stuff. And I was trying to find like he's like, oh, be a one man agency,
Yeah.
right? But one thing I said is I was like, how do I go in and I can build in Photoshop, I'll build out my pages and then use AI to produce them or something like that.
Right.
Like, how do I get from here to here? That's been the struggle, but that's where I need to talk to people like that, I think.
Yeah, no, it helps, man.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, it definitely helps because context is so important. And you need, because if you ask that as an open question, you'll get a lot of feedback that isn't at the level of depth we need to hear. It's more like, oh, you can use ChatGPT, and you're like, oh, thanks.
And what you really need is somebody who understands what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have skin in your game. So they can just be honest and share their thing. And so that's it. It's like, it's amazing to me because people be like, a competitor just told me how to fix a clause in a contract. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, because there's plenty of work.
Yes. So, the rising tide lifts all ships. Right. And look, I'm the same way. Like, I'll help anyone. If you're trying to do something good, I'll help you. If you're on the side of the road, I'll help you. Nothing good comes in life from withholding help or information.
No.
You look at, I remember when I first started, the old school salesmen and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't share anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's my power. That's my power. And I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's not, because eventually you're going to run out of those inside things and then you're stranded. But if you share, then I share and then we grow. Yep. At least that's my poly.
No, I've based the last third of my career on it, sir.
That's awesome.
And it's working. I mean, it's truly great.
So how do you, if you don't mind me, like, how do you, if this runs itself, is it just membership? Like, what do you do with it?
It's membership. It self-organizes, but I've got a team. I've got 2 other people who help me. And so we put on events, and then we're supporting the community. We're doing all that. We have an advisory board, which I put together, and we've got like a ambassador program. So volunteers are helping folks. When you first join, you actually get a bureau buddy. So it's somebody who, there's so much going on, it can be overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And so they just kind of help point you in a direction and say, go try that. Here's a playlist of videos. So we've got like 1,000 videos in YouTube from events over the past, I mean, the bureau is almost 14 years old. Wow. And so when somebody shows up, because we know who they are, we've got it segmented really well for their role or where they are in their life cycle. And we just say, here are the things.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's very great. Because again, context is key. When you sign up for things just out of the blue, they throw everything at you. Yeah. I always feel like the key is to have someone kind of hold your hand and get you into the places you need to get to. So,
that's what it is.
But this was great.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
I really enjoyed this. I thought we were going to talk football.
Well, you know
we
what?
didn't even get to that.
Have me back. We'll talk
football next time. Yeah, this is great. So, and if you could pass this around to people in your thing. That's the one thing is I have all these great people on, but it kind of just goes with where I push it. But if people want, I think this is a fun conversation. So
yeah, no, it'll be great. I appreciate it, man. I truly do, man.
And you know what? Maybe one day I'll get in that pool down in Jacksonville with you.
I could help with that.
Oh, then I might have to take you up on it.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Carl. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great one. Bye.